Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Tommy Ogden. Now, I'm excited to talk with you, Tommy. Tommy is a co-founder of Activera Consulting. Activera Consulting is a boutique management consulting firm. They're focused on the future of energy. They help prepare people, processes, and assets for the resulting change due to digital transformation and energy transition. And so we know that that is a big, big topic for all forms of business. So we'll go through it piece by piece with Tommy in a second. But before we get there, Tommy, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, I am the co-founder of Activera Consulting. I'm also our agile and analytics lead. So I run those businesses for our consulting firm. I really got into consulting about 12 years ago when I graduated from business school. I ended up at a boutique management consulting firm doing IT advisory, very similar to what I'm doing today. And I really started in the project and program management space. I got my PMP, my project management professional
Yeah.
certification, and started doing traditional waterfall development for IT applications. And as my career grew, it shifted and changed. I moved into the big data space for a while. And at that point, we started running agile pods. And so
Hmm.
I ended up getting my professional Scrum Master certification and worked as a program coordinator as well as a Scrum Master on those pods. Ended up growing that program from one pod to 33 pods, serving all
Wow.
different business units and functions at one of the super major clients in Houston, Texas. And then I moved over into the analytics space. And from that perspective, it was a central IT function center of excellence for building analytics products. And what we started doing was adopting the scaled agile framework, right? So there's only
Mm.
so much a single agile team can do. What if you put 10 agile teams together focused on the same problem, right?
Hmm.
So the scaled agile framework, or SAFe, is what I got involved in after that, and became a safe practice consultant and worked to build out the operating model for building those analytics products at that center of excellence. And I've done a number of other things as well, but that's sort of been the general trend of my expertise and how I've resulted in the consultant I am today.
I love it. And certainly, I think all of the new iterations, the continued iterations of agile frameworks
Mm.
are at the center of many, many businesses these days. And here you are coming to us from Houston, Texas, Energy City of America. Tell me more about Activera and what you and the team are focused on.
Sure. So, as you mentioned again, we do digital transformation and energy transition. Those are really our focuses because those directly relate to the future of energy. And what we at Activera Consulting are about are accelerating business outcomes. And we do that in four ways. The first is through strategy, right? So if you're going in and looking at acquiring a biodiesel plant, right, as a company, or you're looking at renewable energy, right? So what is your M&A strategy might be something we'd help you with. Execution is the second bucket. And so that gets back to what you were describing with the agile methodology and how important new ways of working are to delivering these ever-changing and shifting requirements and products. So we focus a lot on program and project management and agility. We also have a change management practice. So that would be BCM, behavioral change management, where we're looking at organizational design, as well as helping with process changes and adoption of these products that we're building. And then finally is the analytics space. And we don't have data scientists and machine learning engineers. We're not doing prescriptive and predictive models, but we are looking at the earlier part of that analytics spectrum, doing diagnostic and descriptive dashboards and Power BI and Tableau, and really helping companies visualize the data that they have and try to make good decisions based off of it.
Yeah, a lot of times it's really just making sure that those insights, that data gets packaged up in a way that people can actually pull information and insights from it to make decisions. It sounds funny, but such a critical need. I mean, Tommy, when you look out at the space right now, I imagine, the companies that you are working with have a variety of needs, but what's top of mind for your customers right now?
I think it might help to level set on the term digital transformation at this point because people
Yeah.
hear that and it's so wide ranging.
Yeah.
Really, the way that I look at it is just finding ways to leverage new technologies as they're evolving in a consistent way. And so, let me give you an example of those technologies. It could be cloud adoption, right? So, does it make sense for us to move all of our workloads to the cloud, or are we an energy company and we have really heavy unstructured data related to our seismic business, and we maybe should keep that on premise? And if that's the case, because of those heavy workloads using GPUs, how do we maximize our data with on-prem plus cloud solutions, right? And what is that right mix for an organization? So that might be one
Yeah.
component of digital transformation. Another one might be analytics, right? How do we build these analytics products and get the insights that you were just talking about? How do we leverage the Internet of Things? We've got all these sensors out in the field and we're pulling up data, right? How can we leverage that? And how do we mix that with the cloud? And how do we use new ways of working like agility to sort of bring it all together? And so when I think of digital transformation, it grows up in different component pieces of the organization, but it's really trying to pull all of those things together. And I would say in the energy industry in particular, that's been top of mind over the last 7 or 8 years, is not only
Mhm.
the instantiation of that digital transformation and associated efforts, but also what is the value that you're getting out of doing those things.
Right. You probably lived through that period where you probably were pulling all this data back and going back to the senior executives and saying like, "Look at all this data." And they were like, "What
Congratulations.
does it mean?
Right.
How do we figure, what do we do with this?" I mean, with the idea of transformation and digital transformation, are you finding that some of the stuff that we're seeing roll out that applies AI, generative AI,
Mm.
being helpful?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's this concept of ROCE that maybe you've heard if
Yeah.
you've been to business school, you've been around return on capital employed, right? But folks are looking right now at what we're calling RODI, which is return on digital employed. So these folks are tossing millions and millions of dollars, these senior VPs, right, to towards digital transformation, and they're trying to understand what they're getting back from it, right? And generative AI is right in the midst of that cycle because it was a little over a year ago that Microsoft bought OpenAI, and then ChatGPT blew up, and there was Bard, and all the competitors, and now companies are saying, well, hey, that's the public version of it, but I want a private version of that. I want a large language model that is trained on the data within my organization.
Yeah.
How do I get that done? What are those use cases that are going to provide significant value? And how do I not only get those products up and running, but then prove that value to my bottom line? And so we're with generative AI in particular, we're still early on in that cycle.
Yeah, and I imagine there must be some great ways where you can train them off of some of that information that you just highlighted before.
Hmm.
Some of the stuff that's coming from the Internet of Things, and hopefully they start to see patterns and perhaps come up with better outcomes over time. I certainly think that AI should be useful, but I imagine it's going to take a couple more iterations to get to the promised land on that one. But
Absolutely.
Tommy, I mean, certainly you've played a role in advising and consulting for a lot of big companies. I mean, you were at Accenture, and now you've got Activera. Tell me a little bit about what drives you to do what you do. But I always love to hear about what motivates folks.
Of course, I think you've got to find that passion in your career. And if I'm being honest with you, Ben, I didn't start that way. When I graduated college, maybe I'm like most people, I wasn't sure exactly which direction I wanted to go. But when I went back to business school is really where I found that passion. And that's how I got into consulting in the first place. And it revolves around helping people. I remember we did an exercise in school where we were talking about brand and what is your brand and what resonates with you.
Hmm.
And that phrase from, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, that kind of concept really really resonated with me personally. And that's how I found my passion. I love
Yeah.
helping people, and not just helping people solve specific problems that they have within their organization or within their smaller group or individually on a project, but also helping them with their career progression,
Hmm.
right? I have a client right now who is unlike most clients I have. He has a very solid 3-year plan for his own career. And
Wow.
how does he want to progress in the next 3 years? Very, very well thought out. And the joy that I get out of consulting is going to be helping an individual like that meet those career goals.
Yeah.
And I can do that personally, right? By helping him sort of as a mentor, but I can also help out with his projects and ensuring that they're
Yeah.
successful and that we are accelerating those business outcomes for him so that he's getting the recognition that he deserves, and then can therefore, lead his career in the direction that he wants it to go. And that concept of helping others is why I got into consulting and why I continue to be excited by it day in and day out.
Yeah, I love that, being a problem solver. But I think it's really astute that you have seen how the progression of personal goals for a customer needs to align with the goals of a project. It's absolutely true when you're working with large organizations that change and people's careers advance and shift. You
For
need to
sure.
make sure that you're working in that type of a cadence, and that's really how you, I think, really can be a successful problem solver. Sounds really, really great in what you guys are doing. But here we are, 2024, Tommy. What's the answer? Where are things going, buddy? I'd love to get a read on what you're seeing this year for you guys, for the team, and also kind of in the market in general.
Sure. Well, let me tell you, my crystal ball just broke right before I joined the interview. So not sure I can give it to you
Just
exactly, but
stroke the beard and look
yeah,
wise.
that's right.
Yes.
Um, well, let's see. So for us, for Activera, we just started last year in April. So
Yeah.
we're almost a year old company. Now, it's funny that you mentioned that. When I first told you that out of business school I joined a boutique management consulting firm, and you mentioned we were acquired by Accenture, and I
Yeah.
was at Accenture for a few years. Well, Activera was born directly from that original boutique management consulting firm. So we got the band back together,
I
and
love it.
even though we're a year old, we really have this 20-year pedigree behind us. And so for us, it's really just about focusing on growth. How do we grow not only our client base, but also our footprint for employees, right? We want to get more and talented people. And that has everything to do with why I like entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
which is building a culture of camaraderie and community and bringing people into that and helping support them, right? It goes along
Yeah.
with how and why I got into consulting is helping people out, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really what's on the upcoming year for Activera. As it relates to the industry, we mentioned it a little earlier. We talked about digital transformation, but we didn't delve too much into energy transition. And
Yeah.
and that's really going to be on people's minds when you talk about, the Russia and Ukraine conflict, and there's, pipeline disruption, and countries are having challenges getting what they need. You're looking at all of the M&A in the industry in the shale and in the Permian region of the United States, and trying to get economies of scale. You're looking at incorporating renewables and really meeting what they call the energy trilemma. How do we get affordable oil and gas and other renewable energies to people? How can we make that accessible, and how can we make that secure? Those are really the
Yeah.
three challenges that energy is trying to solve today. And the last thing I'll say is it's all within the context of climate change, right? And what
Yeah.
we're seeing on the broad scale. And the United Nations came out with the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them, that everybody is working towards so that we don't go past, 1.5 C. And so that whole context and that environment is really laying the foundation and groundwork for the other things that are happening in energy.
Yeah. It's an interesting time. They're often feels like there's two sides to the energy discussion, like the old way of energy and the new,
Mm,
more sustainable stuff. But the reality is that energy consumption is growing in general.
mhm.
It won't stop. Sometimes people think about these technologies like AI as if it's like magic dust, but
Bring
anybody
it on.
who explores these technologies know that they use a lot of energy. So,
Hmm.
we're going to need more energy. So it's really thinking it through and figuring out how we do this in a way that is climate friendly, right? And that's going to be the dance, I think. How do we balance demand and also make sure that we get it right? What a fascinating challenge, Tommy. And I can imagine every company needs that support as they go forward. If someone
Absolutely.
wanted to learn more about what you and the Activera team are working on, where's the best place to reach you?
Sure. So we have activeraconsulting.com, easily Googleable. And I'm also on LinkedIn, of course, linkedin.com/Tommy Ogden.
I'd ask you to say Googleable 10 times
Googleable
forward, but
10 times fast.
that's a word. I tell you, that's a new one for me. I love it. Well, listen, Tommy, it's been wonderful having you on the show. We've been speaking to Tommy Ogden. He is the co-founder of Activera Consulting. He also drives their agile or agility and analytics
Mhm.
practice. As many folks know, Agile has really blossomed in its role in companies and plays a really key position in terms of shaping how businesses run more efficiently. Activera Consulting is a boutique management consulting firm. They're based in Houston, Texas, and they're focused on the future of energy. They help prepare people, processes, and assets for the resulting change due to digital transformation and energy transition. And we've been working through those areas in this discussion today. Tommy, thank you so much for taking us through that, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks so much, man.